Despite the gloomy background that we have today, this is actually a fairly positive news story, and it's one of those few times where I am genuinely excited to be wrong about something. And that is the fact that it looks like Barnes& Noble will, in fact, survive. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, or maybe you know me as Autograph Hound, because I'm going to put this video up on two channels because I think it has enough relevance to both channels. And I'm happy to be making this video because here's the thing. I love Barnes & Noble. I mean, I read a lot. I don't know. I know, of course I read a lot. I make this channel and I have all the news articles. However, in my spare time, I do read a lot. And I read for fun. I read to learn about things. I read to stimulate my brain. I read to I just love to read. I mean, right now I'm reading in novel format the Promise Falls. Yeah, Promise Falls. It's called the Promise Falls trilogy, and I'm reading the first book in that. And in manga form, I'm reading Urusei Yatsura, which is a classic by Rumiko Takahashi. And on my Kindle, I'm ever so slowly eking my way through War and Peace, which is definitely a good book, a long book. So every week when I do my long walks, I usually walk to my local Barnes & Noble, which is about 3.5 miles away. And so it's 3.5 miles that way, 3.5 miles back. So it's like almost 7 miles. That's how long I walk. And when I do that walk, I always pick up like a book. It's like my little treat. Sometimes it's a Criterion Collection Blu-ray or something like that. And I also love Barnes & Noble, and this is why it's on the Autograph Hound channel, is because it's a great place to get signed copies of books like this one by Busy Phillips. I know Apptrepreneur fans might not have a whole lot to like that, but for Autograph Hound fans, that's the autograph. I like showing off a lot of signed books. I get most of them at Barnes & Noble, and it's just a great way to get signed books. However, there has been a lot of concern recently about whether or not they would survive, because they have faced heavy competition from Amazon, and it's kind of ironic that they're in this position, because when Barnes & Noble was getting big, they bought a lot of mom-and-pop booksellers. They also bought smaller book chains, and basically they were becoming the Amazon of, before we know what the Amazon of bookstores was, they was becoming the Amazon of retail bookstores. And I remember not liking them very much back then. I always shopped at Borders, and then Borders went under. And then Amazon came over, started shutting all the other places down. So Barnes & Noble became the place that I kind of wanted to see succeed. And it looks like they are going to succeed because they are going to be going private. Now, I should mention before we begin this, I also am an investor in Barnes & Noble. I have like maybe 20 shares of their stock. I bought them very low. They're like $3 a piece. And I didn't really invest in them because I thought they would go anywhere. They were kind of like a vanity stock. I have several companies that I buy vanity stocks, which I know they don't go anywhere, but I love the company, so I want to give them some money. I lost money on MoviePass stock, Helix and Matheson, very famously. Still have it, by the way. I have a couple IMAX shares. IMAX hasn't really gone anywhere for a while, and I have Barnes & Noble. For the long-term growth and stability, I have Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Disney, Microsoft, Google, all those, Apple, all those companies. However, Barnes & Noble is going private. And here's the article. Barnes & Noble, which has struggled to compete with Amazon for the past decade, is going private. The company said Friday it is being bought by a fund run by private equity firm Elliott Management for $683 million. Barnes & Noble stock surged 30% Thursday of rumors of an imminent sale. The stock rose another 10% in pre-market trading Friday, but the $6.50 a share purchase price for Barnes & Noble is a far cry from its peak above $30 in 2006. Yeah, well, Barnes & Noble did take a beating, and that's why the company needs to be reinvented. Barnes & Noble tried, but mostly failed to keep pace with Amazon. Pressure only intensified after Amazon started to open physical bookstores of its own, because that's what Amazon does. They want to have their hands in every single business, and they want to put as much people out of business so that they can control it as they can. So I don't blame Amazon for this. I blame the government for letting them get away with it. But whatever. As you can probably figure out, I'm going to be talking a lot about big tech monopoly on this channel in the coming years, aside from just Uber, Lyft, and all that jazz. The company's Nook e-reader device was also a flop, never catching on in the way that Amazon's Kindle did. This is true. Unfortunately, I prefer my Nook to my Kindle, and my Kobo for that matter. And I am going to be getting the Nook Glow Light very soon. However, the Nook Glow Light did sell out, which people did not expect, so there's that's kind of a suggestion that they might have a hit product on their hand. That might be what accelerated this company purchase. And a spinoff of the company's campus bookstores in the separately traded Barnes& Noble Education, which I do not own shares of, in 2015 failed to get the more focused and smaller Barnes & Noble back on track either. That led the company to say last October that it was pursuing a sale, and now that Barnes & Noble will be a private company, it no longer has to worry about quarterly sales reports and continued unfavorable comparisons to Amazon from Wall Street. And that is actually really important because there's a lot of companies that, as publicly traded companies, do very, very poorly. However, as private companies, they're fine because here's the thing. A private company can say, oh, look at that. We are profiting $50 million this year. Everything we put in, we made money on top of that. So that's great. Whereas Wall Street can look at it and it's like, you made $200 million less than last year. It's like, well, we're still profitable. Oh, it doesn't matter. You made less money. And Wall Street is all about the growth and the profit, and preferably both. And if the stalled growth far outweighs the profit, or the profit is much less than the growth, you can have problems on Wall Street. So going private, and Barnes & Noble is a company that their profits do shrink. However, they don't necessarily lose a lot of money. Whenever you see stories like they've made this much less million than the previous quarter, it's like, well, they make less money, but they're still profitable. So what Barnes & Noble basically wants to do is they want to scale down, they want to go private, they want to get away from all of that, and now they can just focus on their profits. And by the way, the losses were shrinking. They are showing that they're starting to grow a little again, that the profits are increasing a little bit. And again, the Nook Glow Light is actually a surprise hit product. So I think these factors favor for Barnes & Noble to be bought and turned private. And they say, we are pleased to have reached this agreement with Elliot, the owner of Waterstones, a bookseller I have admired over the years, said Barnes & Noble founder and CEO Leonard Riggio in a statement. In view of the success they have had in the book-selling marketplace, I believe they are uniquely suited to improve and grow our company for many years ahead. James Daunt, CEO of Waterstones, will take over CEO of Barnes & Noble too, although Waterstones and Barnes & Noble will remain separate entities. So it may be the end of an era for Barnes & Noble, but the company at least is avoiding the fate of its rival Borders, which closed its stores for good in 2011, although one apparently does still exist in Pasadena somewhere, because at least I think it was in Pasadena. I saw it. It was really weird to see it. And this was last year, so there's at least one Borders books that still appear to be out there, at least in name only. So this is positive for me, mainly because Barnes & Noble survives, the Nook survives, which again, the Nook is by far my favorite of all the e-readers. I mean, the Kindle is nice, don't get me wrong, but I have a very big issue with buying from Amazon, so that admittingly soils it for me a little bit. I also like the Kobo e-readers, they're pretty nice too. However, the Nook, particularly the LED ones, those are by far the nicest. Like graphic novels, books, even just some basic Android app functionality, like Pokemon Go actually works fairly fine on the Samsung Nook. Sorry, my nose is itching so bad today. Oh well, nobody watches the Barnes & Noble videos anyway. These are vanity videos, kind of like how this is a vanity stock for me. So I'm glad to see that they will continue. And as a private company, maybe they can even thrive. And if they ever get big enough to the point where they feel going public would be in their best interest, they can do it again, although I don't think that's going to happen for a very, very long time. And booksellers will, by the way, definitely want, like the book companies, not the booksellers, but like the publishing houses definitely want to keep Barnes & Noble around because they don't want to just deal with Amazon. Amazon gives them enough trouble with increasing fees and, lower costs of books. Once there was that big deal with Hachette Books a few years ago where Amazon basically wanted to squeeze Hachette and say, we will pay this much for your books, and Hachette said that's not realistic. And Amazon just took their books off their site for a few months until Hachette eventually caved. And they really do not want a situation where that becomes worse. So they're probably very happy that Barnes & Noble is continuing to kick around. And now here's the thing. There is some danger because when you have a hedge fund that buys a company, it doesn't mean that they're going to survive sometimes. Because there was a hedge fund that actually bought Toys R Us and KB Toys, and both of those companies went out of business. Primarily because they saddled the company with like a bunch of debt. Now, if This company can avoid doing that if Waterstones can avoid putting a lot of debt onto Barnes& Noble. Barnes& Noble might have a good future ahead of them. And the fact that they specialize in other bookstores, I think that they won't do that. I think they will let Barnes & Noble be what it is while working to improve it. I do expect some changes from the stores. I do expect a few stores to close. I also expect their CD and movie section to be dramatically reduced. I think they will focus on the two products that primarily make the money: vinyl and Criterion Collection discs. Otherwise, most everything else will be gotten rid of. So that section will be a lot smaller. They might expand travel books or self-help books, whatever, or even the manga section, whatever makes them a lot of money. And the Nook will continue to kick around, and it looks like they have a genuine hit device, so maybe the e-readers are coming back. Who knows? Either way, this is really good business for me. Now, apparently, from what I understand, I'm going to get about $6.50 a share, and that's more than what I spent, so I am profiting a little bit from this. However, I'm just happy that Barnes & Noble will survive. But now I'm going to pass the question off to you. What do you think? Are you happy that Barnes & Noble are going to survive? Do you not care? Do you even read? And for all of you autograph fans out there, I know that this is probably a big deal for you because as an autograph fan, again, Barnes & Noble has actually kind of brought the art of autograph collecting back. And so last Christmas, I got a signed Sally Fields book, a signed John Kerry book, a signed Sayamoto book. I didn't get the signed John Cena book. I did get a signed book the year before of Alec Baldwin. And so as an autograph collector, Barnes & Noble has made buying autographs easy again, and in a way that is fun, and you also get a book out of it. So I'm glad that they will continue to be around so that I can continue to buy those books and share those autographs with all of you guys. And so for all you autograph hounds, what do you folks think? I'd love to know. So whether you're Apptrepreneur, autograph hound, whoever, comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but even as little as $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly, and you get access to my Patreon's exclusive blog. Also, check us out at the Apptrepreneur Vlogs channel and Kevin T. Rodriguez. And if you want to talk to me or other fellow, techie people, I guess, check us out at the Apptrepreneur Hangouts on Facebook. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.